Go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started with today's formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council for March 18th, 2015. We have a quorum of the council president. Councilman Nowakowski is appearing telephonically at this meeting. We'll begin today's meeting with an invocation. Our invocation today will be given by Diane Lippard from the Youth Development Institute. Ms. Lippard, please come forward, and if you can, please stand.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton. Let's bow our heads, please. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to gather together. We pray your will be done as we make decisions on behalf of our community. As we reflect on some sad events earlier in the day, we ask for protection and safety. We pray for healthy bodies, strong minds, and a united front as we discuss critical issues and make decisions for our citizens. Thank you for being in our midst and covering us with your wisdom and your guidance in everything we do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Ms. Lippard. The pledge will be led by Councilman DeCiccio.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today, the first order of business will be to convene the Assisted Housing Governing Board. That board consists of the members of the City Council plus a citizen member. That citizen member is to my right, to my far right and your left, Amador Lopez. Good to see you. So we could please roll call for the Assisted Housing Governing Board.
Board Member DeCiccio. Board Member Gallego. Here. Board Member Gates. Here. Board Member Lopez. Here. Board Member Nowakowski.
Here.
Board Member Pastor. Here. Board Member Valenzuela. Here. Board Member Williams. Here. Vice Chair Councilmember Waring. Chairman Stanton.
Here. Can we have a motion on the minutes of our last meeting, February 18th, 2015? Mr. Lopez?
Yes, minutes approved.
Second.
You have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes unanimously. There is a resolution proposing to authorize the city manager and to request adoption of the Housing Department's 2015 to 25-year plan. Mr. Lopez, you have a motion on that proposed resolution?
Approved. Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion in favor. We have a second. Any comments by members of the governing board? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Item number 5 on this agenda is a proposed resolution authorizing the city manager to issue an RFP to select a co-development partner to assist with the Choice Neighborhoods Grant application process for up to $500,000. Mr. Lopez?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Are there any comments on those items? This item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Without further ado, our meeting of the Assisted Housing Governing Board is now adjourned. Mr. Lopez, as always, things go much more smoothly when you're here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks for having me here.
All right. Next, we'll begin our formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember DeCiccio. Councilmember Gallego.
Here.
Councilmember Gates. Councilmember Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilmember Waring. Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Valenzuela. Here. Mayor Stanton.
Here. We have an interpreter here. Ms. Holm, please introduce yourself for those in the audience who may need your services.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Judy, soy intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita el equipo, por favor venga conmigo o con el personal de la ciudad. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Would the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6008 through G6013 S41503 through S41535, and resolutions number 21300, 21301, and 21308 through 21310.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on boards and commissions?
I move approval of Claude Maddox and Sandy Favorites Whitney for the Water Wastewater Rate Advisory Committee.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. I'll be voting no on these items, consistent with my policy of not supporting lobbyists on our boards and commissions. Any comments or questions, members of this council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. That passes on a 7-to-1 vote. Additional boards and commissions, Vice Mayor.
I move approval of all of the other boards and commissions.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments on those items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
1 no vote. So that item passes on a 7-to-1 vote. We have members of the public here to be sworn in. Excellent. So come to my right, your left, and we will swear you in. And then please come behind the dais here. And the individual council members would like to thank you for your service in advance. So everyone please raise your right hand. I'll say I am fill in the blank, and then later on you'll fill in the blank for the particular board or commission. All right. I,
Dave White,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies,
and defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of
of the office of Water and Wastewater Rate Advisory Board,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You're official. Thanks for your service. Appreciate it very much. You know you serve on enough boards, you know the routine. Good to see you. Follow him. The dangerous crowd. Be careful. Dangerous crowd.
No, they're like head of entities. And when did they just swear into the commission?
Vice Mayor, can we get a suspension of the rules so we can move up on the agenda the local alternative expenditure limitation, item number 1? Is it both item 1 and 2 that we're suspending the rules on? I'm looking at the city clerk here. I apologize. Okay. Okay, so we're going to suspend the rules in order to hold a public hearing on local alternative expenditure item, which happens to be item number 2. I will make that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. So now we'll hold a public hearing on the proposed local alternative expenditure limitation for the August 25th, 2015 ballot. We will not be voting on this item. That's correct. We're just taking public testimony on it. That public hearing is now open. Are there any cards in this item? Is any member of the public here to testify on item number 2, the proposed local alternative expenditure limitation to be placed on the August 25th, 2015 ballot? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. We'll now return to regular business of the City Council, which are liquor licenses. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on liquor licenses?
Motion to approve items 3 through 13.
We have a motion on 3 through 13. We have a second. Are there any cards in those items? We have a few cards, but they are all in favor, in support of the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Next item, Vice Mayor. This item 14.
Item 14, request to approve planning hearing officer's recommendation without further hearing by the City Council on the matter heard by the planning hearing officer on Wednesday, February 18th, 2015.
That was a motion in favor of item number 14?
Second.
We had a motion in favor of item number 14. We have a second. Any cards on those items? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item number 15 is a public hearing for the Broadway Road extension. There will be no action today on that item. Is that correct? So I will now open the public hearing on item number 15. Are there any cards? Is anyone here from the public here to testify on item number 15, which is the proposed Broadway Road annexation? That is going once, going twice. Our public hearing is now closed. We'll move on to G ordinances on our agenda. That's item number 16. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion on item number 16? Oh, you have to read the title. I apologize. City Clerk reads the title.
Item 16, ordinance G6008, an ordinance amending Chapter 39 of the Phoenix Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance by amending Section 39-3 pertaining to definitions, amending Section 39-5 pertaining to electrical, plumbing, and mechanical systems, health and safety conditions, amending Section 39-6 pertaining to building and structural exteriors, and adding a new subsection 39-6-G pertaining to address numbers, amending Section 39-7 pertaining to exterior premises and vacant land, amending Section 39-13.1 pertaining to notice of violation, amending Section 39-30 pertaining to structures posted as hazardous, amending Section 39-37 pertaining to appeals to the Rehabilitation Appeals Board, and making conforming and clarifying changes.
All right, do you have a motion, Vice Mayor? On 16?
Motion to approve item 16.
We have a motion, we have a second. There are a few cards on item number 16. Mr. Rusnick, do you have up to 2 minutes of testimony on item number 16, followed by Mr. Vint and followed by Ms. Barker?
My name's John Rusnick. I've spoke here quite a few times, so I won't say my address. Talking about ordinances, we have this dust-proof problem that was supposedly corrected wrong. Nobody will come up with what we had, but I got a letter from Bill Green, the auditor, saying that this is put in the past, and he agreed with everything that evidently the zoning commissioner told him, or whether neighborhood services told him, or what have you. But they keep talking about Ordinance 702. 702 is off-street parking. 202 is handicap parking. 45-136 is parking only, and that's the only ordinance that's allowed to use 1-inch screened rock instead of aggregate. Everything else in all the ordinances, even in 702, they call for 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch. So what's happening is whoever, instead of somebody working and sit down with me, as I said, if you look at the ordinances with me and prove that I'm wrong, I'll walk away. The city has not done that in 10 years. On March the 5th, it was 10 years. Now on the, we talked about the organizational chart. Now we're back on, instead of having citizen up on top anymore, I guess the public and people who come from out of state or here for business is the public. So
Mr. Vint,
the public gets more.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rusnick. Mr. Vint, you're up next, followed by Ms. Barker. Up to 2 minutes.
Yes, I am Pat Vint again.
I want to thank you for letting us speak as if that was our privilege. But you should recognize that, and you ought to have a petition or something out that all city council people have to be here. Anyway, we need a speed reader there to read this entire item because it's long, but it's very important. Just in the second paragraph, the blighting and deterioration influence conditions that contribute to downgrade in neighborhoods. That's exactly what happened in my neighborhood. And I lived there now since 1980, so that's a few years. But the Neighborhood Services Department put in everyone has to provide a grading and drainage plan, which I did when I developed the property and moved in 2 homes. But now up the street, because there happens to be attorneys live up there north of Butler, they didn't have to do that, so it created a flood. Now the sides of the blacktop is breaking off, so a car comes down the road going south on 16th Street from Butler could get in a terrible accident because the blacktop is broke off, drops down 6 inches. And maybe most good drivers could maintain, but you get little kids that are learning how to drive, they have no idea what to do when their right wheel falls off the blacktop. So something is going to have to be done sooner or later. And getting back to this fraud, all of you are creating fraud by what you're doing. You're picking up little things to make it look like you're doing something and you're doing nothing. It's proof beyond a doubt that the last 2 city managers destroyed the city of Phoenix. You paid them up to over $300,000 to do a job.
Thank you, Mr.
They both
Finn.
quit.
Ms. Barker?
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Diane Barker, District 7. This item 16 has to do with neighborhood preservation. I am supporting this item, and we must keep up the values of any deterioration of blight. All of this is good. I'm glad to see Ms. Jovanovich is going forward on this. And in review of the ongoing problem that the city has said that it is matters closed, I object as a citizen. I think it needs to be reopened. Mr. Rusnick and finally decided as a citizen, I made a proposal into Mr. Zerker. I haven't heard anything about it. Apparently it was not considered. But I want you to know the reason why I did it is that I think that 10 years of going back and forth that all of we citizens are owed a bigger duty to look at these matters and to settle them according to law. This is last time you changed the neighborhood ordinance was in 2009. However, you changed the zoning ordinance for variance that led to this problem over at RAP. I was over there the other day, and it's a blight. If you look at the new development west of Mr. Resnick, it was done properly. The city knows how to do things properly, but when the attorney Paul Lee, Joe Gibson Environment, and Alan Stevenson get together to change the ordinance so that it can't be done on Mr. Resnick's complaint 1 to 4, and they omit the 3,000 square feet, and they say, well, the ADEQ didn't say anything about it. Well, ADEQ is burdened, but we'll go forward. The ADEQ can sue the county and can sue the city for non-compliance of control measures. Now, let's get this right.
Thank you, Ms. Barker.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. There will be no further cards. We have a motion in favor. We have a second. Councilman Gallego, you had a comment?
These items were unanimously supported by the NHD subcommittee, in part because it's really responding to a series of comments the city has received over the last few years. This is addressing issues like abandoned vehicles where the tires are deflated. We'll now be able to do more as a city. It is also moving forward on one of the top priority recommendations of the Abandoned Building and Blight Liens subcommittee that I had the pleasure of chairing with Mark Manoyle on board-up standards so that if someone does leave a neighborhood behind, we can fix up the houses in a way that is more in line with the values of the neighborhood and less noticeable, hopefully reducing crime. We're also, very importantly, going to be having air conditioning standards so that homes with air conditioners shouldn't go above 82 degrees in the summer. I think that is good news, particularly for all vulnerable populations, and we'll be able to help them stay safe through the summer. So very exciting forward motion, and I'm looking forward to voting in favor of the motion.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Any additional comments by members of this council?
Just a quick one,
Councilman?
Mayor. One of the other things, too, that this ordinance does that I want to give credit to my colleagues for helping work on this thing, put it together, is that any home, I mean, any neighborhood could be blighted, but there are neighborhoods in our community that are more blighted than others at times. And when you do run into that situation, you see these homes that have basically these plywood, across the windows. That creates a distraction for others, and it actually creates and adds to the blight of a neighborhood. One of the good things and unique things of this ordinance is that it puts plexiglass across the front, so you can't tell the difference whether it's plywood or it's boarded up. And that's what I like about this, is that when it does go into it, it makes the neighborhoods appealing, and it doesn't take any value away from those neighborhoods as well. So I want to give credit to my colleagues for working real hard on this, but I think that's something else. They're going to be boarded up anyways, so why not make it up into the most aesthetically pleasing? And it also speeds up the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, roll call. I apologize. Aye. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes unanimously. Ordinances and resolutions are next. Mr. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances and resolution and an omnibus motion? All right, Vice Mayor, do we have an omnibus motion on ordinances and resolutions starting with item 17?
Motion to approve items 17 through 59, except items 55, 56, and 57, noting item 27 is as corrected, and item 29 is requested to be continued to April 15, 2015. April 31 to be continued to item 31 to March 25th, correct? Excluding items 23, 37, 38, 39, 49, 55, 57, and 58 for public comment.
Second. Did you put 56?
What was that?
56.
Yeah, we previously held that out, so 56 is held out, yeah.
Okay.
And you can just leave out just 23F and then put everything else through if you'd like to do that. It's just one item, 23F.
Okay, so I think there's cards in some 23, so we'll hold out all of 23 for now, and then we'll do 23F individually. Okay, so we have an omnibus motion. We have a second. Any cards on any of those items, Mr. City Clerk? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passed unanimously. Can I get the card on number 23? Could we get a motion on all of 23, holding out 23F?
Motion to approve 23, holding out 23F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Vint, you had a number of, you want to provide testimony on a lot of items on item 23. Now's the time, up to 2 minutes on item 23, the payment ordinance. You want to provide testimony? The clock is ticking. Mr. Vint, you have up to 2 minutes to provide testimony on item number 23.
Well, there's about 12 here in item 23 that I want to speak about. Is that okay?
You have up to 2
Starting
minutes,
with
and it's your choice how to use it. Item 23.
Have the speed reader read this here. It'll be easier for him to do it than it will for me. He doesn't know how? It's going to take up my 3 minutes if I have to read it for you.
2 minutes.
How can I read it in 2 minutes? You won't listen anyway. The National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials, for payment of annual dues, $12,122.50. Whoever dreamed that up? People do that when they bid jobs or they turn in a time and material bill. It looks good that you really figured it out down to 12 cents. This is not reasonable. So now, go over to item G, the PC Links LLC for the purchase of digital binoculars needed to record evidence during investigation paid by the Financial Investigative Research Group funds to Drug Enforcement Bureau of the Police Department. Now, you know, I never pass up the opportunity to speak to a police officer in the city of Phoenix. If there's one that I ever missed, I'm sorry. But they're the most important people we got here. And we're going to have to respect those people, but they're going to have to respect us too. Because the biggest two departments in the city of Phoenix and every city, because I'm talking to the managers now, is the police department and the fire department. Now, they're all complaining that they work too hard, but they all have time to work a second job.
Thank you, Mr. Vent.
All right, the next speaker is Ms. Diane Barker. You want to speak on 23S. 23S is payment to Mr. James R. Stevens relative to Public Transit Department oversight and guidance. Ms. Barker.
Yes, the city's a grant recipient for federal funds for transit, has been for years. And with that, they have at least 24 assurances that have to be signed off by a city manager and an attorney to verify that we're handling our responsibility, and it appears that they're going to be getting some help here. The only thing that I'm wondering is that did they need to have a competitive contract? How did we get Mr. James R. Stevens? It doesn't, there's an agreement that he's going to assist them, but did it need to be competitive? And what are his credentials?
Hold on a second, Mr. Manager. Do we answer those questions about was this sole source or was this a competitively bid contract?
Yeah.
I do not have that information, Mayor. If you'd like to, we can
We have Ms. Hyatt. Do you have the information? Looks like she's. Are you prepared to answer that?
Mayor Stanton, my name is Maria Hyatt. I'm the Public Transit Director. I have Melissa Swinhagen, our Deputy Public Transit Director. And you want to address this?
Mayor, council members, Mr. Stevens is a former city employee. He was our federal compliance officer for about 10 years. We were hoping to have him cross-train another person upon his retirement. Unfortunately, in the fall, we were prevented from cross-training because of circumstances within the city of Phoenix. So he did retire, and we were simultaneously notified by the federal government that we were receiving a federal review that is very important that Ms. Barker mentioned. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that we had an opportunity for the new person to receive that expertise and that handoff from the person who is the most knowledgeable in the entire region.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Barker, please continue.
Okay, well, thanks for the explanation. And do you know what, procurement code that follows under? I mean, that's in compliance with the code, that administrative regulations?
Okay, I guess we have a question maybe for staff, although it's a kind of a quasi-legal question, but in terms of the process that we followed in order to hire Mr. Stevens for this work.
Mayor, under the procurement AR 3.10, it is possible to do a sole source. My understanding, this was a sole source as long as it's justified under particular credentials and expertise, which in this case, Mr. Stevens possesses.
All right, thank you. Ms. Barker, continue.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions from members of this council? All right, so the item in front of us is item 23, holding out 23F. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item 23F. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on 23F?
Motion to approve 23F.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are any cards on that item? Okay. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes 7-1. Next item, Vice Mayor? If we hold down next, after 23. You have that card. What's next?
No, it's
37? Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is item number 37. Do we have a motion on 37, Vice Mayor?
motion to approve item 37.
We have a motion on 37. We have a second. That is the acquisition of a vacant state land parcel for Mountain Preserve west of I-17, north of Cloud Road alignment in District 1. Mr. Clark, did you have testimony on this proposed acquisition of vacant state land parcel?
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Leonard Clark, resident of Phoenix. And I just want to say I strongly support this. I think this is good, and I applaud the city for being on the lookout for land, because we have all the cookie cutter houses. We have the suburbs taking over the land that I used to be able to go camping with my father in the desert. So anything to add to our a place where we can take our children, our grandchildren, that's not going to have a bunch of subdivisions built on them is a good thing. Thank you very much, and I hope you will, I thank you in advance for voting for this.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Councilman Williams, do you have any comments?
I'm just delighted we finally got this on the agenda, and it is going forward.
Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
What I forgot to mention was this protects Ben Avery Shooting Range and the Pioneer Museum. So they'll always be safe and they can always be there. Yes, yes, yes.
You only get one vote, Councilwoman.
Valenzuela.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mayor Stanton.
A single yes will do. All right, so that item passes unanimously. Next item, Vice Mayor.
Item 38. Motion to approve item 38.
We have a motion on 38. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Clark, this is an ordinance to sell city-owned real property identified by various departments as excess property.
Mayor, I would like to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion in favor of 38. We have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Item number 39, Vice Mayor.
Item 39, motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Clark, you wish to provide testimony on this item, Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Leonard Clark. I'm a resident of Phoenix, and I am for this measure, but I was just troubled by some of the language in there, I think disparaging our public schools, use basically schools that are not adequate or something of that nature. And I think that is a stereotyped little phrase to be using against our public schools. It's very unfair because we have hardworking educators, we have teachers, parents in the community. If they're giving us such garbage funding from the state, I know they always like to say that we don't have enough, money's not the answer, but I just don't think that is an appropriate phrase to be putting in there due to basically you're saying the bad schools, because that condemns a whole other group of people. And I know you didn't do it, but I would just ask to be more careful in the future, because our communities are working hard, our families are working hard with our educators to have the best public schools, but it's hard when you have a Scrooge legislature who puts other priorities ahead of our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Do you have comments from members of this council?
This is a vote in my district, and I guess I don't see the language that Mr. Clark was referring to.
Inadequate schools. All right. I'm assuming that comes from the grant application itself, that we're mimicking the federal language and not using ourselves, but I think the point is well made by Mr. Clark.
Mayor, that's correct.
All right. Any additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item, Vice Mayor.
Item 49, motion to approve item 49.
We have a motion on item number 49. Do we have a second? All right, so I will second that item. Second. Oh, we do have a second. I apologize. So item 49 is a proposed Terminal 4 moving walkways refurbishment design build services. We have a couple cards on that item. Mr. John Vakeen, I hope I pronounced that correctly, you should provide testimony on item number 49, followed by Pat Vent.
Thank you. First, I want to say I'm a frequent user of Sky Harbor Airport. I'm there, unfortunately, 20 to 30 times a year for the last 10 years, and appreciate the economic value that it brings. It's kept me in Phoenix. So big fan of the improvements there. Came down here today so my son could see government in action. Thank you for your service. Happened to see this on the list. I would just say that I love the airport. That walkway is in and out of service all the time, and the world continues to spin on its axis. People continue to get where they need to go. There are other alternative options for people, wheelchairs. They got those guys with the moving carts. I would pick other capital improvements over this. Anything in Terminal 2, get a big vote yes. Bathrooms, more power outlets, amen. I would put those all above this. I'm sure this is needed, but I'm trying to get my 10,000 steps. It may not look like it, but I am. And I'm sure more of us could do that too. So anyway, that's my vote for no on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vakeen, for your testimony. Mr. Vent, did you have testimony on item number 49?
Yes, I am Pat Vent, and I want a reaction back on this. So I'm putting in a request that I want to hear from someone. I would like to hear directly from the city manager so we know that he knows what's happening, because he doesn't control the city employees. The reason I picked this item, it's $3,200,000, $2,600,000, $5,800,000, another $2,600,000. That's a lot of money. And I bear to witness any of you that you know anything about this. You've never looked at it, you never heard about it, and you're not going to do anything about it. You're like a bunch of puppets up there. Whatever the mayor says, everybody, The only three people that have any comments back is my buddy here, Bill Gates, Sal DeCiccio, and sometimes Jim, which is missing today. I thought when you took a job, you're supposed to do the job. That's what I do with my employees. I hire them. I give them raises when they deserve it. I fire them when they deserve that too. That's what has to happen in the city of Phoenix. How many people has ever been fired in the city of Phoenix other than 2? The latest was the police commander, and they fired him because he didn't take orders. Every department in the city of Phoenix needs to be fired in. Department heads, not the department people. They're wonderful. They're good workers. But something is going to have to be done, Thelda. You sit there like you're agreeing with me, but every time I hear you go with the majority, you're always in a majority vote. That's like a puppet show down here. We can't have a puppet show. And when you speak, I can't hear you either. And that's why we have these little things here called microphones.
Thank you, Mr. Vent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a motion in favor of 49. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve item 55.
All right, we have a motion in favor of 55. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second on 55. We have a series of cards on item number 55. That's the proposed issuance of IDA bonds. Unless staff has a particular presentation, I'm going to go directly to the cards. I think this is an item that was on our agenda a couple weeks ago and was continued until today. All right, so the first card is going to be Mr. Leonard Clark. You're opposed to this item.
This mic is on. There we go. Is this mic on? Anyways, the reason I'm up here is I first of all want to thank you for all of your conscientious efforts in improving the area. Great things happening all around the city, Maryvale area, all of these things, and I really mean it. But I'm here also conscientiously to disagree with the way the Industrial Development Authority is being used to fund charter schools. The reason is they get sweet tax-free bonding for the most part. Now you can say, Mr., you can quibble about pennies, but $95 million, and I'm not trying to say anything personal to the owners of Basis. But the problem is they get $95 million in tax-free bonding. That takes away from the public coffers. They come to 9 individual council members, and I guess it's supposed to be an independent board, but the mayor does appoint these members. And that's the mayor before this mayor, so I'm not trying to pick on this mayor. The problem is, right now, as you know, in our state, they're giving huge corporate subsidies. Our schools are being cut back drastically with draconian cuts. We're not going to have enough for our classrooms, and people can poo-hoo that, saying, oh, Leonard, the sky's not falling. But the question is, the problem is, and you know in your heart of hearts, it is not fair that public schools, my brothers and sisters, community, students, teachers, we have to knock on tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of doors to get a bond passed. And as you know, in the legislature, they're making it harder right now. They're going to pass it, so it's going to be very difficult to pass bonding. Yet a charter school, whether it be not-for-profit, and I can tell you how they get around that, not to say this particular one necessarily, how they just come to 9 council members for $95 million, and I'm going to speak again on the next item, $95 million in tax-free bonding. That takes away from our public coffers at a time when we're all being told to tighten our belts. Why are certain businesses, even if they're not-for-profit, being treated better than our public schools? You can say, Leonard, they could ask for a charter. They could come here and ask for tax-free bonding. I don't think they can. You can look at the legal status of that. And I'm not even going to get into the fact of the other. I'll talk about it in the next thing. But I just want to tell you, I'm opposed, but I do respect your conscientious disagreement with me on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark, and your testimony on this item. Next speaker will be Mr. Dan Nienhauser, Executive Director of Basis. You would provide testimony. Up to 2 minutes. Good to see you.
Yes, I'd like to request an additional 30 seconds, if I could, from parent speaker following me.
I've got Peter Beesenson.
Yes.
Is he going to defer his time to you?
I can defer 30 seconds.
Gives you a minute and a half afterwards. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, council members, Mayor Stanton. My name is Dan Nienhauser. I am the Executive Director for the not-for-profit Basis Schools Incorporated. Since 1998, Basis has delivered an accelerated science, liberal arts, public education at internationally competitive levels for the students of Arizona. Basis schools are consistently ranked among the best in the U.S., top 10 ranking in America's best high schools by U.S. News, Washington Post, Newsweek, and Daily Beast. Basis students are 20 times more likely to be national merit finalists than their peers across the country. Since 2012, Basis students have outperformed their counterparts in all other nations, including Finland, Japan, and China, on the OECD test for schools, a test of critical thinking and problem solving for math, reading, and science. And Basis graduates go on to the world's top universities, including Stanford, Harvard, ASU, and MIT. Basis schools are public, tuition-free, and open to all. Today Basis provides an exceptional education opportunity to 10,000 students throughout Arizona. As with all public schools in the state, Basis is required by law to accept all students, and Basis is required to comply with all state and federal laws related to health, safety, civil rights, and educating children with disabilities in the same manner as district public schools. We are before you today because charter schools cannot currently issue bonds directly, unlike district public schools. One of the few viable options for charter school construction financing is to use conduit bond issues such as the Industrial Development Authority of Phoenix. Charter school bond offerings are a two-step process where Phoenix IDA issues bonds in the marketplace and then uses the proceeds of the bond offering to fund a loan to the charter school. So there's nothing coming out of state coffers or any local coffers. This transaction is a straightforward loan to Basis that Basis repays to investors from its normal operations. Only Basis is obliged for repayment, and neither the IDA nor the City of Phoenix has any obligation for repayment, nor any liability. The bonds that you're being asked to approve today will help Basis Schools finance or refinance 9 of its school campuses, serving a total of 6,500 students in Arizona. Basis is providing an excellent public education to the students of Arizona, and once again, the bonds you are being asked to approve today come with no liability on the part of the city or the Phoenix IDA. Thank you, council members and Mayor Stanton, for your time. I urge you to support quality education for all children, support Basis Schools, and vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nienhauser.
Mayor, I just have 2 quick questions.
Councilman, please.
If you could please come up, just 2 quick questions. The purpose of this approval from the council today, and I want to make sure I'm correct on this, is to refinance your current loan that you have, which would basically allow you to save a certain amount of money. Do you know how much money that would save you on this refinance here?
It's a combination of refinancing and financing for 1 new school and 2 additional lease locations. It will save us approximately $500,000 next year, and that will be going into classroom.
And I think it's important for this council to know the timing of this, is that tomorrow's a critical day for you. That, you've been through this process for the city of Phoenix, and as far as I'm concerned, you've been given some level of commitment by going through this process. If anything were to happen to your loan tomorrow, this could be quite financially devastating to your organization. Is that correct?
That is correct. And for the first time, we'll be offering bonds S&P rated. Our chairman of the board, Craig Barrett, came in and we had a big presentation, and we're currently rated BB. So this will be a public offering to institutional investors.
And then one last question, more on the positive thing too. I just want to make sure we had all those things on the table. But last year, I believe you were ranked, you had 2 high schools in the top 10 in the entire country. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's
both in Arizona.
Good. It's a good message for the state of Arizona to show that we have high schools in our community that are ranked in the top 10 in the entire country, especially when you hear nothing but negative news in the media about the education of our state, when in fact we have 2 schools that are ranked at the top 10.
And I think another thing Arizona should be proud of is sophomore national AP scholars in the entire United States. There's 116. 53 of them are in Arizona. And so that means Arizona has 3 times as many 10th graders who are exceptional AP recognized students as any other state. The second state, Florida, has 13. So things are moving in the right direction.
And thank you. I just wanted to make sure people understood what this vote was really about. It's about the refinance that could be devastating to an organization like yourself, a school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Beesenson, you're up next. You have 1.5 minutes.
I'll be very brief. I do work for Basis. My name is Peter Bezanson, but I'm also a Basis parent. So I wanted to talk just briefly about how Basis has been so transformative to my family and my son. My son's not a smart kid. He didn't come to Basis smart. Basis Phoenix made him smart. And Basis Phoenix has also, I think, been a tremendous asset in the north central area, kind of North Phoenix, 32nd and Cactus area where I live, in that area as well. It's been a great asset in the community, and Basis looks forward to opening many more schools in Arizona and to the benefits that will come to the children and the teachers and the funding for the classrooms through this refinance option. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beesenson, for being here. We have many other cards on this item. You certainly have a right to testify, but you don't have to testify if the testimony that you would like to give has already been given by someone else. Anna Sharaneda, did you wish to testify? I would like to pass. Okay, so you're in favor of the proposal. Robert Bowley or Bally? Please, followed by Mr. Wilson Walls.
Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. My name is Robert Bowley, and I'm a parent of a 6th grade student at a Basis school in Basis Chandler. I'm also the college counselor at Basis Chandler, and I come before you today to ask you to support this resolution. As the 2 speakers before have mentioned, Basis schools are ranked in the top, actually the top 5 in the country. I want to just clarify that. And I bring with me today a book written by Amanda Ripley. She is a reporter for one of the major newspapers, and it's called The Smartest Kids in the World and How They Got That Way. And Basis schools are mentioned in here. We are known as the Desert Warriors according to Mrs. Ripley. And let me just quote, in 2012, teenagers at 2 Arizona basis schools took a special new version of the PISA test designed to compare schools to international benchmarks. Until then, PISA had only shown nationwide or statewide results, not individual school outcomes. The results were breathtaking. The average basis student not only outperformed the typical U.S. student by nearly 3 years in reading and science and 4 years in math, but outscored the average student in Finland, Korea, and Poland as well. These kids even did better than the average student from Shanghai, China, the region that had ranked #1 in the world on PISA in 2009. Personally, I lived and worked in Japan for 19 years. When I heard about this opportunity to come and work at BASIS, I gave up a very lucrative life and a very comfortable life there to bring my family here to work at BASIS, to allow my children to receive an education that would be second to none in the world. Mayor Stanton, council members, thank you for your time and your consideration. I urge you to support this opportunity for all children, support BASIS schools, and vote yes on this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bally. Wilson Waltz, did you provide testimony, followed by Gina Kachatria. I apologize, I know I mispronounced it. Mr. Waltz, please.
I'll keep it short. My son is a kindergartner at BASIS Phoenix Central, and it's the first year of the school. I did everything I could to get him in there. I'm driving over an hour each way to make sure he gets to go to the school because I believe so heartily. And I'm asking for your support in voting yes on this. Next year, he'll be attending Goodyear, which will be the newest school opened. So this funding is very important. It'll save me almost 40 minutes of drive time each way. So a lot safer instead of battling the traffic every morning and every afternoon. More time for him to study as well. So this will affect a lot of children that are attending BASIS. So please vote yes.
All right, thank you very much. Gita Atria, I hope I pronounced that somewhat close. All right, correct me please, I apologize.
Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. My name is Gita Kshatriya, and I'm the parent of a 9th grader and a 5th grader at BASIS Phoenix, and I'm speaking in favor of the resolution to approve the loan package for BASIS. I've been involved with BASIS for almost 5 years, and I can directly see the impact that BASIS has had on my children. BASIS Phoenix has been able to meet the academic and social needs of my children in a safe environment, and I'm certain these needs would not have been met at a public or private school locally. My husband and I can count on the leaders of the school to sit down with us to outline my 9th grader's 4-year high school plan based on her strengths and interests, down to the electives and AP classes she should plan on taking as a senior. We can count on the amazing support of the teachers as we work together to help our 5th grader manage her rigorous academics at BASIS, along with the countless hours she trains as a competitive gymnast. And in 2 years, when my current 3rd grader enters BASIS Phoenix, I have no doubt that his needs will be met in the same fashion that I've grown accustomed to with BASIS. So we definitely hold confidence in the fact that BASIS will yield amazing opportunities for all of our children. Thank you, council members and Mayor Stanton, for your time and consideration. I urge you to support opportunity for all children, support BASIS schools, and vote yes on this resolution to approve the loan package for BASIS so that more dollars can go to the BASIS classrooms where students in the state can benefit as my children have for free. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker will be Imogene Bennett, who is opposed to the item. Ms. Bennett, good to see you. Please, the city clerk will come get it from you and pass it to the council.
And they're paper clipped and in the order I'm going to speak to them. So if you just keep them in the same order. My name is Imogene Bennett. I live in District 3, and I'm opposed to the $98 million bonding issue here for BASIS schools. I'm opposed because of the way BASIS schools is organized and the way they use their money currently. BASIS schools outsources its management or administrative costs, and if you look at the very first article, which I've highlighted in orange, BASIS is certainly nationally recognized, but they pay the Michael and Olga Block, a for-profit company, to manage their nonprofit schools. And that's not so bad. And a lot of people have management companies that take care of things these days. But that means Arizona tax dollars now go to a nonprofit, and then that nonprofit pays a for-profit company to manage its administrative costs. So if you would go to the second item, I went to the Arizona Department of Education financial statement page, and I printed out two financial statements for two basis schools. One's for the Ahwatukee campus and one's for the Phoenix campus, who's represented here tonight. I want to point out the purchase services under general administration. I did highlight that in orange. The Phoenix campus spent $964,000, and the Ahwatukee campus spent $787,000 in purchase services for general administration. If you would just take that Ahwatukee one and open it to the second page, you will see this is page 7 of the Arizona Department of Education financial statement. I highlighted under F, classroom instruction excluding classroom supplies. That campus spent $1.2 million on classroom instruction, yet they spent $1.296 million on administration. Our public schools are criticized all the time for being top-heavy, spending too much on administration, and here we have it in black and white, how much Basis School spends on administration.
Thank you.
I have included also, I'll stop in just very quickly, I have included also the public school, Paradise Valley and Gilbert, to compare their administrative costs to classroom instructions. I will be dying to see if that $500,000 in savings actually goes into the classroom or to the for-profit Block Corporation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. The next speaker, if you would like to testify, is Levi Antal. Did you wish to provide testimony? As your testimony, please. And then finally, our next would be Mark Vang, followed by Bridget Kirsia-Grossa.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Levi Antal, and I'm here to testify on behalf of this item as a very positive and very important item for not only just Basis schools, but actually as an example for all schools in Arizona on how to manage, how to instruct, and how to build classrooms that are effectively teaching children to become not only good students, but good citizens as well. I have a 6th grader, I have a 12th grader in this program. The 12th grader has already been accepted to ASU as an early admission student, and I have the opportunity to actually compare to some of the public schools how the instruction compares. My 7th grader, I should say, is actually on a level with a junior and a sophomore high school student in a public school district here in Phoenix. So I strongly urge that you support this organization and this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark Vang, did you wish to provide testimony?
Hello, council members, Mayor Stanton. My name is Mark Vange. I'm the parent of 3 lovely and talented young ladies, ages 18, 16, and 7. Our eldest graduated from Basis 2 years ago, managed to achieve perfect SAT scores, won a Seaman Foundation Award for having the most perfect APs in the state of Arizona, and is currently at the University of Chicago. Our 16-year-old now is a junior, has all but finished her APs, is hoping to become a doctor and is studying things like category theory and history of mathematics, which obviously she would not have access to in a conventional school. And our youngest, who we hope will be a Basis student next year, is currently awaiting the results of an entrance lottery because Basis schools are way oversubscribed, as you probably know. Like most parents in this room, I believe my kids are extraordinary and capable of amazing feats, and so we've always striven to have the best education for them. Early in the education of my elder kids, we sent them to private schools, and we were always conflicted about this because we wanted to provide the best opportunities for them, but the broader context of private schools, have negative connotations for folks who can't afford them. That's why we were super excited to find Basis 8 years ago and to move our kids there, and we made a decision as a family at that point to continue paying our way as if we were attending private schools. And in the intervening years, we have now donated over $100,000 to Basis schools. I won't go again through how this bond is useful. You guys have already heard all that. But I do want to thank you for your consideration, and I would urge you to join me in supporting Basis schools and the kids in our communities, and to vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Bridget Kirsia-Grossa, hope I got somewhat close to that, followed by Arania Lara. Again, if the testimony that you've already wanted to provide has been given by someone else, you don't have to write testimony, but if you want to, you certainly can. Please.
Hello, good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. My name is Bridget Corchagrosa, and I'm the parent of 3 Basis Phoenix students who are on the 5th, 8th, and 9th grade. At Basis Phoenix, I'm not just a parent, though. I am also an AP English teacher and the college counselor. So I see every day firsthand how transformative this education is. My own children, like many of the students who I work with at other schools, would not probably qualify for accelerated programs. But at Basis, as young as 6th grade, they are able to take, or required to take, physics, chemistry, biology, offerings like Latin, Mandarin, in addition to some of the traditional languages. As a graduation requirement, our students must take 8 advanced placement courses, and many of them seek to take them even at the extracurricular level. Oftentimes, my own children, I mean, they work tirelessly, but they'll say to me, I am so happy that I have this opportunity to really stretch and to grow as a learner. What attracted me originally to Basis is the fact that this is open access to all students. At so many schools, to attain this level of rigor, you must qualify for a program. But at Basis, it's our culture. It's our students support one another in attaining the highest levels of achievement. So for that reason, thank you and for your time and consideration, and I urge you to support Basis Schools and vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arania Lara, did you provide testimony?
Good afternoon.
Please.
My name is Arania Lara, and I'm a parent of Basis. Our 13-year-old little guy, Christopher, attends Basis, and this is his 3rd year. I'll make it, simple. Does that mean that I'm up?
No, you're good.
I'll make it really simple. When he was little, he would say to us, if ASU doesn't take me, I'm going to have to apply to Harvard. And my husband and I looked at each other and said, ooh, how are we going to pay for that, right? Now, he's at Basis and he loves ASU. And now he says to us, well, if Harvard doesn't take me, I'm going to have to go to Stanford. And we're still in the same dilemma. But I can't tell you the opportunities that he's had in education. I certainly can't help him with his homework because in his 3rd year of physics, I don't know if you know anything about physics, but I can't do physics. My husband can't do physics. Even Google has a tough time doing physics. So I vote yes, yes, yes for Basis bond package. And the reason why, I want to tell you a little story just to take, from a personal stand. The other day I walked in his room and I said, hey, buddy, what are you doing? What are you working on? And he said to me, if I could come up with a mechanism on how to kill that cell, that causes cancer, we'd be all great. It's like almost like playing video games. Everybody, creates this mechanism. Why can't I do it? And that's the kind of kid that Basis Schools are creating. They don't care if it's a nonprofit. They don't care how much money. All this adult stuff doesn't mean anything to them. All they care about is the solutions that they come up with, and that's what Basis is doing for my family. So I ask you to vote yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next will be Heidi Dauphin, followed by Charity Taylor Antal.
Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. Sorry, I'll be brief. I'm a parent of a 6th grader at Basis. I agree with many of the things that have already been said. She's receiving an excellent education. One thing that hasn't been said that I'd like to point out about the uniqueness of Basis is that it is the quality of education that many private schools offer. One thing that my husband and I were totally excited about with this school is that you're getting such a diverse culture and you're getting so many points of view from so many different students that you don't see at a private school. And so I love that I'm getting this diverse culture that I'm putting my child into, and she's seeing all kinds of different people, and that's an education in itself along with the physics, the math, and all the wonderful teachers and staff that support the school. So I would urge you to vote yes on this resolution because it is a unique learning environment that lots of students are thriving at, and it is free for anybody that wants to try BASIS out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charity Taylor Antal.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton and council members. I too have a 7th grader at BASIS Phoenix, where I also teach AP English. I'm here today to ask you, of course, to support this resolution, but I want to point out one thing that really hasn't been stressed yet. Every child in Arizona deserves access to world caliber education. We know that disparity exists. Charter schools have done an amazing thing for Arizona's children, right? No matter your zip code, through school choice, through a parent and a child's right to choose where they go to school, now children in Arizona have access to quality education no matter where they live. Look at any of the Goldwater Institute reports in the last 14 years to talk about the strides that Arizona charter schools have made, with, of course, BASIS schools leading the way. I urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tamberg. Next will be Suzanne Eiselberg, followed by Randy Videka.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. My name is Susanne Eiselsberg, and I have a 6th grader at BASIS Phoenix. I will just mention the points that haven't been mentioned so far. I would like to talk a little bit about the effect that BASIS has had on our community here. What I've seen is that BASIS attracts families from all over the country. I've had many friends call me from out of state investigating about these new BASIS schools, what's happening, and they consider moving here for the education of their children. I have to tell you that I believe BASIS changes the dialogue about schooling in our state, which also helps companies transfer families from out of the state offices into Arizona. And I've seen that, I've heard that, I see that. The other point I wanted to mention is how BASIS has affected our family personally. And obviously I'm European, so I've been raised and educated in Europe. I'm very familiar with the PISA study. I come out of a family of 3 teachers. I have experienced and seen many schools in the US as well as abroad, and I believe that BASIS is one of the best schools out there, if not the very best. I feel blessed to be part of the BASIS system. I think it is a blessing that the school has been started here and that we can be part of the system. My husband and I, we are very impressed by what our 11-year-old learns every day. She's in 6th grade, has Algebra 2 classes, and loves it. Where else would she be able to do this? She has physics, chemistry, and biology classes. If one day she decides to become a scientist, she will be prepared, I'm sure. Most importantly, though, BASIS fosters the love of learning in our daughter and inspires her to do her very best every day. As I drove to school this morning and dropped her off, this is what she said to me. Can I finish? Yeah.
Short finish, please.
Mommy, you have to make this work. You have to tell them, I love my school, I love my teachers, and what we learn is awesome. It's just amazing. This school is totally the best. Mommy, I don't want to go anywhere else. I ask you to support the resolution and vote yes. We love BASIS, and I would like other families to have access to this great school as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for your testimony. Randy Videka, if you want to provide testimony, followed by Jeremiah Hakundi.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm a parent of 2 BASIS students who are doing exceptionally well at BASIS. The reason they're doing exceptionally well is because they have peer tutoring. They have teachers that take the time to work after school and before school to help them with their subjects. They're students that wouldn't normally excel, and in this environment they are excelling. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about something I'm passionate about, which is education. One of the most important responsibilities we have as parents to ensure that our children are prepared with an excellent education. We are in the midst of an economic revolution. Computerization, robotics, and competition, especially from Asian countries, make it critically important that our children have new and expanding skills to compete and succeed in the new world. And not only will our children need new skills, more importantly, they will need to be prepared to constantly acquire new skills. Basis schools provide that and more. Basis schools provide students with an education that is essential to attract new businesses to Phoenix and the surrounding cities. Please vote yes on the resolution to allow Basis affordable financing for the benefit of our children and our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Jeremiah Hagundi and then Sheetal Patel.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton, City Council members. My name is Jeremiah Hackendee. I'm the head of school for Basis Peoria, one of the campuses affected by the outcome of this discussion today, and I urge you to vote yes on the resolution. I hope you'll listen to and really hear the individual stories given today from the parents' perspective of how a Basis education improves opportunities for their children's lives. Because at the school level, these individual student stories add up to some remarkable statistics, as Mr. Niehauser said at the top of the discussion. This year, Basis Peoria will graduate our second ever graduating class, and among these students, over 40% of them have been recognized by the National Merit Organization, and 5 of those are National Merit finalists currently. Their SAT average is 2027 out of 2,400, and last year our first graduating class earned over $1 million in merit-based scholarship among 10 students. These statistics translate into remarkable opportunities for all of our students, which is much needed in our state today. With present state budget cuts in education, with average state student academic achievement ranked near the bottom of the list nationwide, this help from the IDA in resource management for Basis schools is more important now than ever. Because Basis provides equal educational access to all of our students, and with respect to those who oppose, this is not a competition of resources between charters and traditional district schools, but rather an opportunity for the council to help our schools best use our financial resources in the immediate term where they belong, our classrooms and our students' education. A rising tide lifts all boats in Arizona. Thank you, council members and Mayor Stanton, for the time and consideration. I urge you to support quality, equal access opportunity for Phoenix area students, support the high-achieving, success-proven mission of Basis schools for the good of our city and state, and vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down. Sheetal Patel, followed by Mark Allen.
You pronounced it right the first time. I was impressed. Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. The school's great. There's no denying it. The results show that. A couple of things that haven't been mentioned, according to the summer article in the Wall Street Journal in 2012 and 13, Arizona's per pupil spending ranked 47th in the nation. Per the Phoenix New Times, it ranked dead last at an average spending of just over $7,000 per student in Arizona, less than half of what states like Connecticut, Vermont, New York, and Maryland are spending. The spending here is disproportionate to related to things disproportionately low, related to things like gross median income and property values. My husband and I have a kindergartner, and we commute over an hour and fight traffic from Goodyear. We are happy and excited to welcome the new campus that will be coming to Goodyear. But not only do we commute, we also help and contribute to the schools through various fundraising activities. And with this financial package, the bond package, the savings, those dollars are going to go to our kids to achieve greatness. The Basis provides a great partnership with the community in bringing such great results that they do here in the state of Arizona. So I urge you and thank you very much for your time this afternoon and consideration. Please vote yes, and let's achieve greatness together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Mark Allen is next, followed by Kamalesh Pinisetti.
Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. My name is Mark Allen. I'm the head of operations of Basis Peoria, which started in 2011. At that time, my 7th grade son enrolled, and it was a remarkable experience for him. My wife is also the head of operations for Basis Phoenix. I gave up a 25-year career in HR management to start working at Basis 4 years ago, and we now recruit teachers and staff from all over the world. Our wait lists are long, and my budget is a shoestring. And we try to put every cent we can into our classrooms with our teachers and try to make do with whatever little is left over. I urge you to vote yes on this important resolution. Basis Peoria is one of the 9 schools affected by this, and as well as Basis Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Kamalesh Pinisetti, thank you for coming down, followed by David Corshado.
Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. My name is Kamalesh Pinisetti. I'm a parent of a 9th grader in Basis Chandler. I've been involved with Basis for the last 4 years. My son has been going to Basis Chandler since 6th grade. And during that time, I've seen how Basis has progressed. Outstanding education, their rankings have soared. You see them, 2 of the schools in the top 10 in the nation. And when can we say that about Arizona being top 10 in anything? So one of the key things, I don't want to repeat myself, but my son Pratik, he's attended a private school, he's attended a public school, and I think one of the key things for him was very talented, but he needed to be challenged. He used to coast through everything because it was so easy for him. So one of the key things we were looking for was a school that would challenge him, and when we went to Basis Chandler, that was the first time he was ever challenged with regards to his education. He's a 2-time national chess champion, and the thing is, the great thing with Basis Chandler is, the principal, Mrs. Terrell, Mr. Bowley, the counselor, they've been so supportive. The teachers have been fantastic in supporting my son to achieve more greatness, and I think, and he's done so much during his 4 years in Basis Chandler. Not only is he taking top classes, but he's opened up a nonprofit already. And so I think at the end of the day, it's all about results. And I think Basis Chandler and Basis schools are providing great education, and I would like your support for this measure.
Thank you so much. David Corshado is next, followed by Ms. Ruth Ann Marston.
Thank you, council members and Mayor Stanton. So I'm here as a parent of a boy at Basis. My son Jake is a 7th grader. And when I moved here a few years ago from New York, 2 of the questions that were asked me most commonly was, how do you deal with the summers and how are you dealing with those schools, right? Like it or not, that's the perception amongst other states that Arizona just does not have high-performing schools. Now, understand that in New York, property values are largely driven by 2 things. One is your proximity to New York City, and the second is your school district. Literally, home prices are much more expensive in the better performing schools. Schools like Basis put Arizona on the map. Schools like Basis, actually, for some of these people who I have friends in school districts that the average tax bill is north of 20 grand a year, and their rankings weren't even in the top 50. So can you imagine how these people feel when they see a school from Arizona leading in the top 5, 2 schools in the top 5? I can tell you that this whole thing, the notion from the opposition that about private management, since when is it bad to reward performance? These guys are performing, they're getting results. And the truth is, this doesn't have to be a zero-sum game, right? The public schools do not have to be harmed to allow Basis to use this money to reinvest it in children. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. What do you tell your friends about the heat? No, you don't.
I tell them I spend the summers in San Diego.
All right, Ruth Ann Marston, you're next. Good to see you. Followed by Scott Crozier.
Mr. Mayor,
members of the council. I'm Dr. Ruth Ann Marston. I am the governing board president for the Phoenix Elementary School District, and I'm in my 11th term as the governing board president. I asked 2 weeks ago that this item be delayed, but not so we could debate whether Basis was a good school. This is not the format for that. It's not the place. It's not the time. We had heard from many members of the Education community, that there were concerns with the way the Phoenix IDA was operating and the criteria for loans. During the 2 weeks since this item has been delayed, Mr. Paul Blue and Mr. John Salgado have gone out of their way with members of their department to meet with the Phoenix Elementary District and concerned people from the community to explain how the IDA works and to talk about criteria changes that might possibly bring more jobs into the city of Phoenix. I've come to thank you for that time and for that education. And just for the record, if I were in your seat with this item this evening, I would vote yes. I hope that you will look at the criteria for the IDA loans. I think there are some minor changes that could make them be more useful to our community. Should you do so, I personally and the Phoenix Elementary District and many members of the education community would be happy to be part of that discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ruth Ann, and for your leadership on so many issues, including education issues. Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Scott Crozier is next. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mayor Stanton.
Looks good. I haven't seen you in a while.
Good afternoon, council members, Mayor Stanton. My name is Scott Crozier, and I have 2 children at Basis Phoenix. One is a senior and one is in 8th grade. The one that's a senior is graduating and will be looking forward to attending. I'm arguing for ASU, but she's got other options, so we'll see what happens. I am the former general counsel of PetSmart and also the former general counsel of Phelps Dodge Corporation. I second all the people who have spoken in favor of you voting for this motion. I would also just make the point that is a nuance to what was said earlier by a gentleman that spoke to before me, and that is that there are a lot of bright spots here in Arizona. This is a bright spot for Arizona, both from the standpoint of the education that it provides our students, but also just from the standpoint of how well it performs. We need to support this entity. We need to support these schools. These schools are important to us. They're important to the students that attend these schools. They're frankly important to all the students here in Arizona. So I encourage you to vote, strongly encourage you to vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crozier, for taking time to be down here. Ed Austin is next. You waive your time? Okay. You're in favor of the item. I have 2 cards on white cards, which mean indicating not wishing to speak. If you change your mind, now's the time to do it. Gia Baker, in favor of the item. Matt Poole, also here. Good to see Matt. Also in favor of the item. Did anyone else wish to provide testimony on item number 55? Come on down and introduce yourself and provide up to 2 minutes of testimony. And then I'm going to turn to the council members for any questions of our professional staff who are here. Good to see you. Please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, council members and Mayor Stanton. My name is Carla Tamberg, and I am the proud parent of a 7th grader at Basis Phoenix. Just something that no one has said, I'm also and have been the co-president for the Booster Club, and have seen how resourceful and efficient Basis tries to be with their funding. So we want our children to be extremely intelligent, athletic, and social. So please, I urge you to support this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming down and providing your testimony. Before I hand over to any motion, or any council members have questions for our professional staff, we have Paul Blue here, and we have John Salgado, who's our professional city staff, who is executive director of the IDA, I think is the appropriate title. Councilman Gallego.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the passionate education advocates who joined us today. A very convincing argument that BASIS is producing results, and I've met many of the graduates and students who are very, very bright and very accomplished. I have some questions that I always ask on these particular issues. We financed a project through the IDA in my district, but I learned we did not do a lot of traffic review, and I had a parent and some teachers, administrators who've come to me and said, we had a student get hit, and apparently another one more recently, and asked for my commitment that we pay more attention to school safety issues as part of the normal review. The state legislature has decided that we wouldn't go through planning and zoning for charter schools, so we don't have a chance to do school safety reviews. And at least in the case of my district, I've learned we could have done a lot to keep students safer if we had done those reviews, and I think we all agree that we ought to work very hard to have safe routes to school. I also think when we as a Phoenix City Council vote on issues in other jurisdictions, we ought to, whenever possible, find out and value the input of their elected officials. And just last week, we were voting on something related to, or our last council meeting, related to economic development in Glendale and Chandler, and I'd asked staff to make sure that their councils were supportive, and they were. So can staff speak to, have we looked at traffic safety issues, and do we have the support of the local jurisdiction?
Mayor, Councilwoman Gallego, I'll defer the question to Mr. Salgado as to the specific details of traffic analysis. But I would point out for this item, in any event, I believe nearly all of these schools exist today in a built environment, with the exception, as I understand it, in Goodyear. But I'll defer to Mr. Salgado to answer more specifically.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilwoman Gallego. If I recall from the conversation that we had regarding safety issues in July, I believe, of 2014, when the issue was raised by Councilman Arkowski of a school in his district that did not conform to local zoning ordinances, and I think you've also raised the issue about school safety. At that time, we were directed to present to the paid subcommittee and discuss and vet this item more thoroughly. And in September of the following year, or the same year, we presented to the paid subcommittee, specifically focusing on can the Phoenix IDA require any school funded in Phoenix to go through the traditional planning and development process. And so we, in participation with the Planning and Streets Department directors, made a presentation to the committee and really focused on the item you mentioned, Councilwoman, that state law exempts public schools that are operated by school district and state-funded charters from municipal zoning ordinance standards, including site review, plan review, et cetera. And I think after a thorough discussion, where we ended up with at least the direction or the comment from the committee was that the Councilman Nowakowski had mentioned that perhaps that the City Council should consider looking at making changes at the state legislation to address these issues. So that's where we ended up with that conversation in regards to the safety and traffic analysis in other jurisdictions. We encourage the schools to work with the local areas. We've not asked the local council of each of the areas, in this case when we're talking about Tucson and the others, about whether they support these measures or not. It's not been our standard practice. As it relates to Phoenix, one of the schools that will appear before you later is expanding a facility. We've encouraged that they work with the planning and zoning, and they're planning, to do that. In that particular case, they'll be adding no students, and whatever issues that they discuss in regards to safety and traffic were resolved, I think, 2 or 3 years ago when they worked on that project.
So we can't speak to whether the Goodyear Council or that school has traffic safety. We just didn't look at it?
No, we did not look at it.
You have additional questions? There was a gentleman with his hand up. I think you wanted the opportunity to, you may have an answer on that particular issue, so please come forward to the microphone and provide any answer to the question. Introduce yourself first for the record, then any answer you might have for that question.
My name is Terry Warren, and I am an attorney. I work with charter schools regularly,
and I work on these projects regularly. The City of Goodyear has been very involved in this project. In fact, they sold the land to Basis, and we have gone through their entire planning and development process. We have worked with them in very hand in hand to get this project done. And in every case with charter schools, they do go through all of the planning and development process, the typical life safety programs to get their building permits. So although they're not subject to zoning, they are subject to all the life safety issues. They do traffic studies, and they go through all the process to get their building permit, just like any development.
Is that true? Our staff has told me otherwise, that the traffic they come in too late for us to really address the traffic
no,
issues.
what Mr. Warren has stated is correct.
I will tell you that in virtually every case when we do these, there are traffic studies completed, and we do work with the cities very closely on that issue.
May I add something on to this?
Councilman, do you have any questions?
Just for clarification, if I may. We're not required to do that. There's a difference. I want to make sure you're not on the hot seat on this one. We're not required to do the traffic safety, no different than any other school. We don't do this for any school. We don't do it for them, but they just choose to do that on their own. Is that correct?
District public schools are not subject to these rules either, but I will tell you that district schools typically work closely with the cities as well. And charter schools, in every case, if the city requests them, produce traffic studies and go through that process. So if there's any concern by any of the municipalities, that traffic study is completed, and we do everything that we're asked to do.
And I want to make sure this is clear, though, too. The IDA is a funding arm. You don't go out and conduct the traffic studies, nor do you require it, because it's not required by law. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, we look at the financing of this transaction. I think Alan can probably speak to the process involved with.
All right, Alan Stevenson is our Planning and Development Services Director. Mr. Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, in the case of our requirements, we treat charter schools the same as we do public schools pursuant to state law, and we don't require either entities to do traffic studies as part of their requests when they come forward. They do have to get permits to do work and go through a review process with streets about the way they access the public street from their parking lot and how the driveways are done, those types of things, but there's not a parking and traffic study done as part of any school.
Thank you. That's consistent with what I've been told before, that there were not traffic studies. And I have made a commitment to the parents in my district to work very hard when we're involved in any way to have safe routes to school. It is so hard to get the emails from parents saying, what are you doing? My kid goes to school every day and we want her to have a safe route.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Additional comments or questions by members of this council? Councilman Pastor?
Mayor, I have one.
Councilman Nowakowski, Councilman Pastor, you want to go first?
I'm going to let Alan go first, and then Nowakowski can go.
Okay, Alan Stevenson had an additional statement. I apologize, and then Councilman Nowakowski. Mr. Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, I would point out that whenever a charter school does come into the city or a public school, when they're going through their life safety review, we refer them to the Street Transportation Department because they do have a safe school program there that helps them try and develop a safe way for them to develop the site in terms of traffic, but they're not required to go there. So we do make every effort to try and direct them in that fashion.
Councilman Nowakowski, you had a question?
Yes, Mayor. It's my understanding that with the IDA bonding, that gives us a choice to actually work with the community and the charter school to put them together for a safe plan for their students. If not, we as a council can actually deny the IDA bonding, so we have kind of a little bit more authority or a way to actually negotiate that safe schools on our behalf because of the bonding situation, right?
Councilman, I guess I'll turn to Paul Blue, I guess maybe to answer that question about the discretion of members of this council.
Mayor, members of the City Council, Councilman Nowakowski, under state law, you have a requirement to authorize the conduit issuance of bonds to any entity, charter schools included, and the state law does not speak to the criteria that you use when approving those bond conduit issuances, and so it would be it would be up to the City Council whichever criteria it wishes to apply.
Councilman Nowakowski.
And it's, second of all, this isn't actually tax dollars going into the IDA, is it?
Are there tax dollars involved? Is the question from Councilor Nowakowski, Mr. Blue, or Mr. Salgado?
Mayor, Councilor Nowakowski, there are no public tax dollars involved in the issuance of these bonds. It is essentially a loan that is a borrower, in this case schools, and purchasers of bonds who essentially are the lender, and the IDA is merely a conduit through which that activity and transaction occurs. So we neither provide resources in the transaction, nor do we incur liabilities associated with that transaction.
Mr. Salgado, did he get it right?
I believe so. Yes.
All right, Councilor Nowakowski.
Last question. So this is way different than a bond that's a school bond that you vote on during the school bond elections and stuff like that, correct?
Mr. Blue, do you feel comfortable answering the question about the comparison between IDA financing versus a bond that a traditional public school would authorize?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, and I'm close enough that Mr. Salgado can kick me if I've got this incorrect, but public schools, districts, and public charter schools both have the capacity to issue bonds. Have the access to the bond market. Public school districts are bond issuers. Charter schools, public charter schools are not issuers of bonds, and so that is why they are here using the IDA. They are not authorized to issue debt in a public forum, and so, but the issuance of bonds broadly are very similar, have much of the same mechanisms and much of the same purchasers of this kind of debt out in the capital markets.
Councilman Nowakowski, do you have any other questions?
That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Pastor?
Yes, I think what's happening with the items in front of us, 55, 56, and 57, there are a number of issues happening that do not have to deal with you guys at this moment. And I want to be clear on IDA because there is ever since I've have been on this council, I have asked about IDA, I've gotten briefings and different types of things. And my clarity on IDA is that the purpose of it is to invest within your community. And once the fees and everything else we receive, then we reinvest in other pieces of our community. And so if I read the goals correctly, increasing job opportunities within the community, supporting education and healthcare, and providing housing for underserved communities, those are our goals. And so in looking and doing my research, there's a disproportionate of what's happening within our goals. And so I'm making a request, and I'm making a request that we have a dialogue about IDA and about where we are as a council on IDA. It's very difficult to vote on some of these projects when it's they align within the goals, but it's investing within the community. And I have done research and have spoken to other my colleagues at the National Leagues of Cities and discussed what has been happening in Phoenix, and they are kind of taken back at what we're doing. So I think we have to have a broader conversation about this, and projects still coming up to us to vote on. And so that's just where I'm at currently on the IDA. So are we going to have a broader discussion? Or
my understanding is that at least one and maybe two subcommittees have asked that that this be before their subcommittee. So I think in multiple venues, I think there is going to be a broader discussion about providing guidance to the IDA, at least with the priorities of this council. I think one is Councilman Gates, a subcommittee, and then Councilwoman, my understanding is that it may be coming also before your subcommittee as well. If obviously, if you'd like to, that's perfectly appropriate.
Thank you.
Other comments by members of the council? Councilman DeCiccio?
Of course, I had to make some comments on this. I'm a total pro charter school guy on the council, and I think that you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I think it was important for this council and for politicians and elected people to hear the actual stories, the success stories, because usually this thing gets buried in a philosophical debate, whether it's a charter school, traditional school. They forget about the people and the kids and the children that are really impacted by this. A couple things I want to do first, right off, if I could. I want to thank Councilman Gates. You had a meeting, I think, last week with 4 or 5 school districts, calmed them all down, at least most of them, I think.
I don't know if I'd say calm them all down. That is not the phrase. We had a great discussion, which I'm happy to hear Councilman Pastor talk about that, and I'm happy to hear that the mayor's going to be supportive of that, because we need to have that discussion. And then I'll turn it, and I do have to thank Leonard Clark for his post on this, which I think actually generated a lot of discussion in our community, which is a healthy thing. Thank you.
I think it was healthy, but it's been going on here for probably a good year now, this debate, this underlying debate. But I do want to thank you for having that meeting, calming the waters as much as possible. This has been brewing for a very long time here at the city. And for the one lady that spoke about you're not being able to teach your kids the physics when they reach a certain age, I want to let you know, my mom and dad, just on a personal note, I grew up real poor. My parents had very limited education, 6th grade, 4th grade education, so they could never help me with my education. One of the best things I think you can do is let them do it on their own. My wife actually does the kids' homework at home, but God bless her for doing that. It's really hard. But at the end of the day, what you think is a failure on your part sometimes is a success on your part. To this day, my mom, who's in her mid-80s, 86 years old, still laments about it, says, I could never help you. And I always tell her, I said, Mom, you've always helped me. You've made me do it on my own, so you learn those things. This has been going on for a while here on this council, and there is a deeper discussion going on. When you're hearing things about safety or you're hearing all these other things, this council looked at literally, I believe, putting roadblocks in the way for you to be able to get this type of funding. And let me tell you what this funding really means. It means it allows us to better have a more diversified economy, a diversified education system here in this country. If we do not look at this type of diversity, we will not be able to better compete in this new world economy. We're not going to be able to do it. We should be able to allow those schools, those students, those parents to decide the direction of their families. You have every right to be able to make that decision of where you want to go. The City of Phoenix has done a tremendous job in funding the IDA. If you look at it in the traditional school model, and the reason why we don't get a lot of schools wanting to get it, I think we had close to $176 million out of the $700–800 million in total that we had here. But the reason why we don't have the traditional schools basically come in here as much, because they have the bonding capacity. The charter school movement has been able to rely on private funding, which has been done through the IDA. You're now able to do that. And if you look at it, charter schools actually they work from the negative side of the balance sheet, if you call it that, because you don't have the funding ability for capital. So the IDA has been a tremendous tool for the charter schools to be able to grow in our city and actually in our state. It's because you've been able to access that type of funding that the other schools basically have at their disposal, which you don't legally have the ability to do. So I think it's real important for us to understand that. So when you hear us say things like safety and all these other things, what you're hearing us say is we're going to make it harder for you to be able to get your funding. That's what you're hearing from the political body up here. For those of you that know, I'm incredibly direct. So you need to hear what you're hearing here, is that what you're going to be seeing by all these committees, this never came up until the charter schools started getting funding. This is when all this really started coming about. We can't legally go out there and require charter schools to be treated one way and then the traditional public schools to be treated a different way. You can't require charter schools to have a traffic study when you don't do that on the other ones either, and you shouldn't. You should be able to have everybody treated under the same umbrella. That's why we have laws. Everybody's supposed to be treated equally. So what you're going to be seeing now with these new committees is going to make it harder. There are going to be rules. There's going to be ways. It's sending a message to staff to make it more difficult for them to do funding. And I want to ask staff a simple question here. Have these charter schools been successful? Have we had any defaults in the charter schools since we started doing this?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, I'm aware of no defaults.
Okay. They've been incredibly successful. So if you look at it just from an economic side of it alone, it's been incredibly successful for the city of Phoenix. It's been incredibly successful for those that have invested in the IDA. On the other side of it, it has been also, and probably more importantly, it's been more successful for those students, for those families, for those parents that have been able to make a choice of where they wanted to send their children. And then thirdly, the IDA has been an incredible tool for us to be able to better compete in this new world economy. If we do not have this type of diversification, we are not going to be able to compete. And that's what this is about. If we want to see our country grow, we're going to have to allow this type of diversification. And this debate between charter schools and traditional schools is great until you start seeing the faces that we see out here. This debate has been going on up here for about a year now. And I think it's time for us to have that type of clarity that there should not be any type of fear from the charter school movement. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you very much. I was going to go down to Councilman Gates and then come back to Councilman Gallego. Councilman Gates?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with nearly all of what Councilman DeCiccio said, but one thing I disagree with is in my committee, we're not going to be throwing up roadblocks. In fact, we have been working with the IDA for several months to get them, no problem, but just to be clear, to get them in front of our committee. I chair the efficiency subcommittee to have a real discussion because I think there was some, again, there have been posts and things out there in the on the internet where there are misstatements about what's going on. And so we were looking forward to that opportunity to really lay out for the IDA to talk about the charter school work, but then all the other work as well. So that's one thing. Otherwise, you know, Councilman DeCiccio, I agree with most of what you said, but I did want to make clear that we're looking forward to this being a very positive discussion at our subcommittee. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gallego.
This debate started when a student was hit on Southern. Many of the people who have expressed concerns about public safety and school safety are members of the charter school community. Some cases, charter schools have gone in places that were planned and zoned for totally different uses, and now they've come in with the school. So we can have this debate about school safety, and I find it offensive, the idea that we can't talk about safe routes to school in an honest way and make it, we can have a debate about public safety and school safety and whether or not we have open review processes. Right now with traditional schools, there is a little bit more of a process. They have elected officials who they can go to and have concerns about public safety. In many cases, the sites are identified before they vote on the bonds. And so we ought to be asking if there's anything else we can do to make sure students don't get hit.
Well, then those rules ought to be applied to everybody, not just the charter school movement.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing
with that. Well, we had this debate last time.
I don't think anybody is disagreeing with you, Sal, on equity and safety. Nobody's disagreeing with you on that. Where I disagree with you on that is that I asked for it to come to my committee, Parks, Arts, Transparency, and Education. So we need to have a awareness for our community, for those that are sitting and looking at what we're voting on. So none of us disagree with what you're saying until you start to attack us and saying that this is about charter and public and everything else. This is not about that. This is about transparency. This is about efficiency and effectiveness. This is about education, period, for all those that sit in the city today.
Well, this debate has been going on for about a year up here about it, and it's all only because of the charter school movement.
For a year, I have asked for clarity. And for a year, it hasn't shown up, and so it's going to show up today.
Well, let me be equally clear. This is a debate about the charter school movement. We can talk about safety. I agree with that. But unless the rules are applicable to all schools, then it doesn't do any good. Then it's a targeting of a certain segment. And We found that we can't do anything about it anyways. So then it's always going to be something else. So what I'm saying is that I want to find out what those things, those criteria are going to be. Is it going to be specific to, and you will find out when it goes through the subcommittees. It's never happened like that before. If you want to discuss it and you want to look at it, I totally think that's fine. But when we start looking at the charter schools, specifically only them, then I'm going to have a problem with that. We cannot look at only them.
I think Councilman Cease, I want to be clear. I think my understanding is that both Councilman Gates and Councilwoman Pastor would like to review and better understand all of IDA funding, probably to better educate all of us on how the system works, because it is a unique area within the city. Since we ultimately have to vote on that, I think the subcommittee wants to dig in a little deeper to better understand IDA funding and make sure that they're providing resources not just for educational institutions, but the range of things that under the state law that created the IDA, make sure that we're funding all of those issue areas. My understanding, that's what Councilman Pastor wants to ensure, is that we're hitting the broad range of options. And I don't think you meant to cast aspersions on the decision to put before a subcommittee. I would never assume that you would cast aspersions on another council member. Any other council members like to make a comment on this item? Councilman Valenzuela, do you have any comments?
Well, Mayor, there's already a motion on the table. Second, I sit on both subcommittees, on the fee subcommittee, which is chaired by Councilman Gates, and the Transparency, Education, Arts, Parks subcommittee that's chaired by Councilwoman Pastor. I agree that these things should be looked at. You know, we have 9 different people on this council and 9 different personalities, and it's supposed to be that way. Some of us will support this motion for different reasons. I support it. I'm pro-education. I'm certainly pro-public schools. I'm a product of 13 public schools right here in the city of Phoenix. I'm a product of good education, and I think the IDA has done their diligence here, and for that I will be supporting this motion.
I thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Any other comments? I'll just make a short statement first. With the mangling of the names of people who testify, I want to apologize to the AP English teachers who are in the audience. Clearly, I'm not an AP English student. I have a lot to learn, but thank you for your testimony. So the City of Phoenix is responsible for reviewing all Phoenix Industrial Development Authority resolutions to issue revenue bonds. So today, among other projects up for review, we are asked to review the IDA's recommendation to approve bond financing for a public charter school. These bonds, available to both traditional public district schools and to public charter schools, provide the capital necessary to build and improve physical facilities. So whether it be today's vote or my previous votes for approval of projects such as the very successful Higley Unified School District bond, I'm personally proud to support any effort that results in creating great schools that benefit our students. I'm acutely aware that for our public district schools, the process of obtaining tax-exempt bond financing is not an easy one. To make this method of financing more accessible to school districts, I've asked the Phoenix IDA to develop additional ways to address this in a manner similar to that of a public charter. In December of last year, the Phoenix IDA formed a nonprofit entity to assist in this effort. With the help of this nonprofit entity and other tools, the Council will be able to work more closely with school districts in the use of Phoenix IDA issued tax-exempt bond financing. It is my intent to do everything that I can to be a champion of education while supporting the Phoenix IDA in its effort to assist those entities and projects that improve educational outcomes for the students of Phoenix. I want to thank Juan Salgado and the IDA for being very, very flexible and working the extra mile, as Ruth Ann Marston indicated, that we're going to come up with additional ways to support our traditional public schools in addition to supporting quality charter schools in our community. With that, roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes unanimously. Next item is item number 56 on our agenda. We have a motion on item number 56. This is for the IDA proposed issuance of IDA bonds for the JMF-ECVA Convention Center expansion project, which I think is in Nevada, correct? That the project itself is in Nevada.
Mayor, that is correct.
Okay, Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on 56?
Motion to approve item 56.
We have a motion on 56. We have a second. Steve Nielsen. Why are we supporting a convention center in Nevada?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, I hear you tonight. I hear some of the dialogue that's going on about what you fund and what you don't fund.
Hold on just a moment here. I'm sorry. We'll just hold on a minute until the audience, many of whom are for this item, have a chance to leave the room. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
First of all, I represent Government Facilities Development Services. This is a company that is formed to lessen the burden of government and do social good. We take the profit motive out of development. We partner with a nonprofit, a true nonprofit. They don't own real estate. They don't get paid. They do social good. We were approached by a city in northern Nevada to help them build a convention center. They had an existing facility that had been built 30 years ago. They wanted to expand it. They didn't have the financial capability, experience, or wherewithal to do that. They approached us. We put together a team. We've been working with them for the better part of a year and a half to bring this project forward to you. They have put $3 million of their money into this project. They believe in it. We are, the continuance 2 weeks ago, we held our breath because this project is scheduled to close its financing the end of the month and start construction the 1st of April. So let me tell you a little bit, though. It's a 29,000 square foot convention center in Elko, Nevada. But I think the important thing is it went through a public process over the course of those year and a half. We had monthly meetings. We vetted issues. We follow all of the requirements as it relates to the municipal plan check, reviews, all of the code requirements. We've discussed issues. They brought in consultants as it relates to financing alternatives and what the statutes allowed in the state of Nevada. We're here to you is because we have experience working with you. Our partnership with the James McGillis Foundation actually funded the first privately funded schools for a public school district.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen, for your testimony. I apologize. It's 2 minutes for each person. Mr. Melton, Mike Melton, you just provide testimony in favor of this item, followed by Gary Aller.
Yes, my name is Mike Melton. I'm president of the Magellan Foundation. And I'd just like to reiterate some of the things that Stephen had said, that basically our mission is that to lessen the burden of government. We have a nonprofit which no one draws a salary from. Any dollars that do come in go back out to public education. We've given scholarships and grants, and we were, in fact, any dollars that come in, we've given back to the Higbee School District in any way, shape, or form for staff training. And you know, I hear so much talk about, you know, some of the nonprofits really getting rich. We're a nonprofit where no one draws any salary from it whatsoever. And we are helping out a little tiny community up there in northern Nevada who wants to be as good as they can be. And we're going to try to help them achieve that. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We hope we can work with you and as we get additional financial support for our Phoenix public school districts. Gary Aller. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton, City Council. I'm Gary Aller. I'm president of Governmental Facilities Development Services, the same firm that Steve works for. I came today to talk a little bit about your question, Mayor Stanton, about why a convention center in Nevada.
Yeah, why?
We're located on Tatum in Phoenix, Arizona. We're the developer. The nonprofit that just spoke, the James McGillis Foundation, is located here in the valley. The contractor is located on Greenway in North Phoenix, Arizona. They will have the lion's share of the money. And speaking of the money's going to come from the Alliance Bank to purchase the bonds. They're the lender. And you all know the Alliance Bank on Central. They are providing the funds. There are several law firms involved. Quarles and Brady, you know, across the street. Bush Alter Niemer, located here in the valley. Ballard Spar is located across the street. And Kutek Rock, your bond council, they're all located here. And guess what? We all spend our money here. We pay taxes here. And we can use the Phoenix IDA in order to continue our business in the marketplace. With that, I'm going to ask the council to please vote yes for this, because it's jobs here in Phoenix. Yes, it's jobs in Nevada, but it's jobs here. And the last reason is the fees that come back to the IDA are spent on our community development, and that's where we want those fees to be spent.
Thank you very much for your testimony. That's all the cards I have on this item. Are there any questions from members of this council on item number 56? Councilwoman.
It's my understanding that the council liaison to the convention center voted against this deal.
Mayor, Councilman Gallego, I have seen an article that I came across today that suggested there was a split vote in the council, but I would defer to the applicant to explain any precise details, because I do not have them.
I'm sorry, the vote was from the ELCO convention team? Okay. Mr. Nielsen or Mr. Aller, any information regarding whether the Convention Visitor Bureau representative on their...
Mayor, members of the council.
Are there council? Okay. Please.
Be happy to, I was at the meeting, and so basically we talked about 25-year financing, and at the end, because of some of the volatility in the mines, what the Alliance banks had indicated is a willingness to fix the interest rate for 10 years instead of the full 25 years. And as a result of that, it caused a split vote within the ELCO Convention and Visitors Authority. However, they did pass it, and they have directed us to move forward.
But the only council member who serves on the board voted against it?
Pardon?
How many council members are on the convention center board?
By state statute, there's one representative from the city council, one representative from the county, and 3 that are elected at large.
So I want to defer to the people in the local community. Do you think the local elected officials support this project?
Absolutely in favor of it. I've got a number of newspaper articles I could share with you tonight that talk about overwhelming support. There was no public opposition whatsoever.
And does this financing method skirt any local rules?
Does it skirt any?
Like wage rules?
The issue I would guess you're referring to as prevailing wage, which is an issue within Nevada, is because this is privately funded facility and privately constructed, it does not fall within the state statutes as a government project, and so prevailing wage isn't an issue.
Thank you.
All right, other questions by members of this council? Councilman Gates?
I have a question, Mayor. That was good testimony. Good to hear about the local involvement here in the Phoenix area. But to me, probably one of the most important facts is that my Chief of Staff, Laura Eder, she's smiling over there. She spent a lot of time in her childhood and adolescence at the ELCO Convention Center, different events, DECA, things like that, and she feels strongly that that needs to be upgraded. So on that basis, I'll be voting yes, Mayor.
All right, we all have our own reasons for our votes. Council, any other council members have testimony on this or questions or comments? Did we have a motion yet? We do have a motion. We have a second. Roll call.
Cicio. Yes. Gallego.
No.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the item passes on a 6-2 vote. Next item is item number 57.
Mayor, I would like to make a comment and a motion on this, if I may.
Please.
I just want to thank Mr. Salgado. He has always been very responsive and has always brought an applicant in and explained what was going forth, especially if it was in my district. You You've always given me an opportunity. If it's a charter school, I always bring up the traffic. As you recall, I can see you smiling. I always talk about the traffic patterns and making sure there's good egress in and out of the school, because that is one of the challenges we have with some of the charter schools. But I appreciate the hard work you do. I believe in what you do, and I absolutely approve this approval for this project.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Clark, you're opposed. I'm assuming it's for the same reason as item 55. You're more than welcome to provide additional testimony if you'd like.
Actually, I did leave off something. So, but my name is Leonard Clark. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would like to start off by the fact that I did not emphasize. I hear the term equal educational access. You can state to me all you want about how privatized charter schools under the and-rand model that you've chosen to fall in with my conservative friends, how they provide proper competition. But when you can show me a privatized charter school with no parentally elected school board, no democratic process about so-called parents should have a decision, I'm sorry. I apologize to all my friends who have, I have many friends who have children in charter schools, but I have many friends who have children in public schools, and their parents can decide. They can go just like they can go to your august gathering board and say, wow, this is wrong. But if you go to a corporate board, it is not the same. That's the world model. That's the Putin model. That's the Chinese model. This is the American model. It's the American democratic system that we have. When you can show me a charter school that under law, federal law, civil rights law, that has to accept as a Phoenix Union High School District or Alhambra Elementary School, all of our unified school districts have to accept a child, whether they're cognitively disabled or physically disabled. They can't make an excuse and say, well, we don't have the facilities here. So my charter school friends can say all they want that they don't turn out students. But it's awful easy to say when you can pick and choose and turn people out because they don't pass your grades, and then they go back to our great public charter schools, and thank you, Carl Hayden High School. Thank you. Phoenix Union High School District, we have a great public education system. When you can tell me that they don't turn people away, or they do turn people away, then you can tell me it's right for a charter school to come here and ask for $19 million as the other one did $95 million. As for the not-for-profit thing, now I do agree. I heard, Mayor, I heard some good suggestions by you and Mr. Salgado. And by the way, I'm going to be working very closely with them. I want to know where every penny is at. I want to know all the transparency on this. But I heard that you suggested we do like Higley. They did not get the bonds themselves. They had to go through a not-for-profit corporation that rented. But if you think our Republican legislature is going to let that happen when they see you doing it, then I've got some land for you to buy in the SUNY Triangle. Thank you.
Fair enough, Mr. Clark. All right. Jody Johnson, did you provide testimony on item number 57? Followed by Ms. Bennett, Imogene Bennett.
Good afternoon, good evening. Actually, it's evening now. Mayor Stanton and council members. My name is Jody Johnson, and I'm the founder and superintendent of Point Schools. I didn't bring any parents or students or staff to come here, but I can tell you I have 2 alumni that are my own personal kids from North Point Prep. My son just graduated from ASU last year, and my daughter is at NAU this year doing her student teaching. We'll be finishing up. I'm a former public school teacher who recognized a need in the Northwest Valley. While the Northwest Valley is home to many fine public district schools and some excellent private schools, in the late 90s there were no options for families who wanted a smaller environment and couldn't afford a private education. North Point Prep offers students a real high school experience in a smaller environment. We don't claim to be better than everyone else. We're just a good choice for some students and some families. Although our varsity football team has only won 1 game in the last 2 years, our POM squad has taken first in state for the last 2 years. And our newly formed robotics team is doing very well. For the past 3 years, we have been ranked as one of the best high schools in U.S. World and News Report. And this last year, we were ranked in the top 5 schools with a Phoenix address. We have a diverse student body that reflects the demographics of our neighborhood. We also serve students with a full range of academic abilities, from those seeking the full range of advanced placement courses to those with special needs and everything in between. Yes, we have blind students, we have deaf students, we have students with autism, we have the full range of students. We don't turn anyone away, and we don't force students out. I'm here today seeking approval for the bond. We currently have our bonds through Pima County IDA, and we're seeking this bond through Phoenix because we have a small window of opportunity to pay off our current bonds at a lower interest rate, and with only a slight increase to our monthly payments to replace 2 aging moldy modular buildings with a new state-of-the-art STEM building. If we're unable to bond through Phoenix IDA, we'll have to return to Pima. And personally, I'd rather pay any of my fees to the city that North Point calls home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Johnson, for your testimony. Ms. Bennett?
I have to say that I'm not necessarily opposed to this item, although I said I was opposed, but I'm opposed to the philosophy behind the IDA funding charter schools. And I want to make sure that the council operates from a knowledge base. So I gave you the financial statement from the Arizona Department of Education again. Eileen Sigmund, the president and CEO of Arizona Charter Schools Associations, was quoted as saying, "My charters are very concerned. The additional assistance that was originally given to charter schools, and that means they get $1,100 more per pupil than a regular public school, was because this is intended to help charters make up for buckets of funding that they did not have access to, such as money from bonds and overrides that public schools have." Well, it looks like the charter schools have found their buckets of money through the Phoenix IDA, and I expect to see the line long and continuing for the 455 charter schools that are in the state of Arizona.
Thank you very much. We have no additional cards on that on this item. Any comments from members of this council? Councilman Gates?
Mayor, I will be supporting this item, but I just want to see if we can get an agreement out of the folks at North Point. I went to Deer Valley, so if you guys can lose the games against Deer Valley, which is right next door, if you can agree to that, then yeah, I'd absolutely be on board for this. Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, although we have one additional person to speak on this item, I should have recognized him earlier. Our man of the year from Valley Leadership, Tommy Espinoza. Good to see you.
Thank you.
2 minutes. Good.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just want to clarify something because you know, my poor executive director is getting beat up over here, and I'm president of the IDA. I want you to understand that we are appointed volunteers that serve on the IDA Board of Directors. And I got to say, we do deep due diligence, and I want you to clarify that we are doing what we've been appointed to do. And it just so happens that the market is driven right now by charter schools. Hopefully in the next couple of years, it'll be driven by affordable housing. But please understand that our work is driven by the business community and to some degree the needs of the community. So it's not like we've got a love affair with charter schools. It just so happens that right now, that is the market. Now, personally, I really support charter schools from the standpoint that I think they have, well, I don't need to speak for them. Now, not all charter schools are perfect, and I'd be the first to admit that. But I want to be careful and please ask the City Council to come to our meetings. We welcome going before your committees, and we believe in transparency. And I think once you see what we're doing for the City of Phoenix and our community, especially poor communities where the grant money goes of the capital that we raise from outside of the City of Phoenix, you're going to be very impressed. So thank you for the moment. I had to vent, Mayor. I'm sorry. You know, you sit through these meetings and you kind of go like, sometimes it's better keep your mouth shut, but I had to get up and say something. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you taking time to provide that testimony. Thank you for your leadership, and you had to jump up and do it. I can't believe Sal Rivera has stayed quiet the whole time. I mean, you were about to jump up. All right. Any other comments by members of this council? Councilman DeCiccio.
No, I was glad. I'm glad Tommy said something up there too. I saw him standing over there, like kind of moving up, like it was about time for him to say something. But you know, from my end, and I know the rest of the council here, we really respect all the work that you do on that. And I think you brought up a very clear point that the charter schools are the hot item right now. And that is where the funding needs to be, is because they've been very successful. They've been incredibly successful. And it also adds into a different part of what our community needs. They bring in sales tax dollars to our city. They bring in jobs, bring in construction jobs, but that's just on the economic side of it. It also brings in a great education. Now, one of the things, Principal Johnson, I know you talked about U.S. News and World Report. You were there 3 years in a row, not just 1 year, but 3 years in a row you were labeled as one of the best schools in the country. Another success story for our city that we need to be touting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman?
Mayor, I just want to say I will be I'm supportive of this item. I appreciate Tommy's explanation of this. And Principal Johnson, it's nice to meet you. Today was Shadow Day with Be a Leader Foundation, and one of your freshmen, Henry, spent several hours with me, along with other freshmen from North High School, a product of North Point, products of North High School, and I have to tell you, we're in good shape. Our future is bright, and I'll let you know, because you're sitting here, if Henry's a product of North Point, I'm supportive of what you're doing there.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. All right. With that, roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes unanimously. Next item, Vice Mayor. 58 is the next item. We have a motion on 58?
Motion to approve item 58.
We have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Vint, did you have testimony on item number 58, which is abandonment of easements?
Yes, I am Pat Vint again. The city of Phoenix is going to have to be consistent sometime in our lifetime. Up in our neighborhood, and now you're going to say I can't talk about our neighborhood because we're not talking about this item. But it is. The problem is the city came up there because the planning and zoning department made a mistake, flooded this property. So what do? They give half of the street to the neighbors on the west side of the street and take advantage of the people on the east side of the street of 16th Street and El Camino. So you can't be doing this. Somebody has to be accountable and responsible, and I know what's happening is the city employees in the departments are abandoning ship. They're retiring, they're spiking their pensions, they're taking every second, every minute they can get, and we catch the hell. This is not going to work. Some citizens can only take so much, and I'm just about there. It's a disgrace. This gets back into fraud again. You're taking trickery and robbing from people. It's a disgrace. All of you should resign before you're arrested for fraud, because you are fraud. And the city manager, the proof of it is the past two city managers. Those preceding council people voted them for raises over $300,000. And what do? They quit. You can't have this. It's fraud in the first degree. Something is going to happen. It's going to go to court, and every person that's been involved in this is going to be brought into court.
Thank you, Mr. Vint.
I promise you that. I promise you that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so we got...
There's a lawyer in town. You turn off the speaker again.
All right, so we have a motion in favor of 58. We have a second. We have Mr. Vint's testimony. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item, Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve items 60 through 71.
We have a motion in favor of 60 through 71. We have a second, noting that item 60 is the proposed appointment of one of our new municipal court judges. Any comments by members of this council? Our judge prospect is not here, correct? If assumed approved, she'll come at a few. Okay, great. Okay.
Mayor.
Council.
Well, if Councilman Nowakowski is going to make a comment, I'll decline.
Councilman Nowakowski, you can speak first, and then Councilman Williams will correct the record.
Mayor, I just want to let you know that being a part of the Public Safety Subcommittee, this was a hard choice. We had such great candidates, and, we always have to choose just one out of all of them, and this was a really hard choice, and I think we picked the right person, but all three other candidates were great, and it was just really hard. I just want to let all those other candidates know that we respect them, and hopefully they'll apply again, and one of these days he can become a judge in our court system. And thank you for applying. And we got such a great pool of judges.
Thank you, Councilman. Thanks for your leadership on the subcommittee. Councilman Williams?
I just wanted to agree with Councilman Nowakowski. It was a hard decision. We had outstanding candidates. All could have filled the position. She was a shining star, and I just want to congratulate her.
Any additional comments?
Mayor?
Councilman?
We have also, what's coming up next too is the presiding judge, is that correct?
I think it's coming up in the very near future. That goes before subcommittee.
And in line with this too, though, but I want to know if there's any diversity on that selection. Are there any women, because that's an issue, we've talking about it, are there any women on that top 3 list? I'm hearing that there may not be. Are there anybody of color on that committee, on that top 3 list as well? I'd like to ask and see if there are.
We haven't received it.
We haven't received it.
Okay, I'm hearing that there may not be, but I want to make sure, I want to know, at least that's on the radar screen.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. The formal meeting of City Council is now adjourned. There are a couple comments, still citizen request comments to be made.